Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Torgbi and today I'm joined by Chloe Smith. Hi Chloe.
Hi.
So you're a data scientist, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I come from a town just outside of Liverpool, but I currently live in Hampshire. I've done an undergrad in biology, followed by a little short stint travelling of 2 years where I worked and sort of travelled as I went along. And then I completed a master's and started work just last year.
Nice. So where do you currently work?
I work at Zurich Insurance, um, which is basically an insurance company. I guess most people know insurance for like their car insurance and things like that. But we also insure like schools and big organisations and shops, and there's a ton of different types of insurance basically. So Zurich does that type of thing.
Cool. And what would you say your main responsibilities as a data scientist are?
It's sort of hard to answer because we work on so many different projects that differ quite a bit. But it's basically, if I try to like sum it all up, we take data to then give insight to the business so they can make some decisions with evidence and sort of predict how these decisions will affect maybe like their employees, their customers, their prices. So it's just helping them to make informed decisions, I guess.
Yeah, cool. And how would you say that you got into data science?
I guess it wasn't straightforward. So I previously mentioned that I did my undergrad in biology, which is a bit different from data science, I suppose. Um, and then I sort of liked the analysis side of biology. So then from there, I was like, right, I'm not sure what I want to do. Took some time out, and I'd heard about people who were employed as a data scientist, and I was like looking at jobs in that were like business analyst and those types of roles. And I sort of just set my mind on it, and the masters really got my foot in the door for Zurich, basically.
Great. So you did a master's in data science but an undergrad in biology. So do you
Yeah.
think there's kind of like a direct link between biology and data science?
Yeah, for sure. I think with like all the sciences, to be fair, um, it's sort of like when you do an experiment in school and you get your like recordings and your tables that you look at the end, and it says like, okay, look at the data and tell us what you think's happening. That is like a lot of what data science is, and now we have better skills like and applications from sort of machine learning side and AI, and which is artificial intelligence, but it is really like the thought process that goes into that. And we have a lot of our data scientists did PhDs or masters or things like that in the sciences before they started um, as a data scientist. So I do think there is quite a big link between the sciences and probably maths as well.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned very briefly stuff like doing labs in school and getting data from those kind of things. Do you think there was much of a jump between what you did at school and what you did at university? And what was the transition like for you?
I think for sure. When I was at school, I must admit, I wasn't the most academic of pupils. Like in my first couple of years, I really just didn't enjoy being there. As I found out, like, you know, your GCSEs coming up and your GCSEs are going to sort of give you them steps to sort of step up to A levels and then to like university. I was like, okay, I'm going to get my act together, and I sort of put the hard work in, and as I put the hard work in, I sort of started to enjoy it more, because obviously I was like, oh, actually I'm not bad at science, I'm quite good, and it sort of like stepped up in my head that like I could do it. And I was the first person in my family to go to university or have any higher education, so I guess that felt like a bit unaccomplishable at the start, but if you take it step by step and work for like, you know, your A levels or your BTECs or stuff like that from high school, then it's like just one step at a time basically, and it's not that terrifying as what university sounds like it is if you don't know anybody who's ever been.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. Earlier on you mentioned that between your undergraduate and your master's, I think you traveled, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Is there anything that you learned from your travels?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it was life experience that sort of set me up to make better decisions as well. But when I first like left uni, I didn't really know what I wanted to do or the type of people I wanted to work around. Or to be honest, I was like, a company's a company. How different can they be? And those types of things. Where when I went traveling, and I worked in Australia and New Zealand as well, I sort of worked in hospitality and healthcare, and I even worked for an architecture company for like 6 months. I really was like, you know, I want to go into a more commercial, corporate type place, and that really sort of helped me work out the people I wanted to be around and stuff. And it also just gave me a bit of like breathing space from school, because you sort of get into like the swing of like, I'm going to do this and then this and then this, and you know, like we've got a lot of time to work, so I think it's really important to take some time out for yourself. And I mean, most people will be like, you need life experience, so I sort of was like, no, this is what I need for my job, I'm learning everything I need here now. So it was really good and I enjoyed it, so that was amazing too.
That's really cool. So back to kind of data science and what you do today, what would you say is the most challenging part of your job?
Oh, it is a tough one. I would say that every day I come up with a challenge that I think I'm like not going to solve. I always like end up getting over it, or someone will help me, or the internet's there for help. But I think a lot of it is to do with, you sort of need to know your data really well and what's going on. So it's not just like you get this data set and you apply like the stuff you've learned directly, and it's like, oh, here's the answer. It's like you need to know what that data is about, how it was collected, you know, where it's been stored, all these types of things. And knowing them little details can really make the difference to like what you think about the data. So I think it'd be learning all that content, because I mean, I didn't know a lot about insurance when I started the job, and you have to sort of pick it up from each project that you go through. So that is quite hard to be an expert in everything by the end of it. But I mean, I think I'll be really good at a quiz or something by the end of my career.
Yeah. I definitely think there's a lot of learning involved in data science.
Yeah.
So we just talked about the most challenging parts. But what do you think is the most enjoyable part about your job?
Personally, I think it's the output. So what you produce at the end of all your analysis, and there's so many steps you go through, from setting up the project to like getting the data, cleaning the data, working with like other people in the company. So when you actually like decode all that, them numbers and commas and and just everything you've been given, and you can actually like, it's like speaking another language, and you can sort of say like, hey, look, this is what the data shows us, this is what it was like trying to tell us, and then that gets put into practice, and you just like, I did this. Like it's really cool.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And I think we already tell what your answer to the next question is going to be, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are you proud of your work?
Oh yeah, for sure. Super proud. I think it's really challenging, and I think that's the main thing. You know, it's like when you have a test and you work really hard for the test, and after the test, that feeling of like, I feel like that's what I feel like every day, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's done. I've done that. Like it really gives you like a badge of like pride, because I don't think it's easy, and I think just having that challenge every day. I love it.
Cool. And then my final question for you, Chloe, is if you had to give advice to the younger version of yourself, what would that advice be?
I'd say don't try and think about the type of person that does a job when you're trying to think what you want to do. You know, because you sort of think like, oh, well, I wouldn't be able to do that job because I'm not that type of person, or I'm more suited to this type of job because I'm like this. And I think it's more about what you enjoy, and you've sort of got to experience things before you actually know what type of job you want. So don't feel like, you know, you might feel like, oh, I've tried this and sort of failed, but it's not failure all the time. Sometimes it's just like you don't want to do that, and that's okay. There's definitely something out there for everybody.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. So thank you, Chloe. It was really interesting to hear kind of your journey from school to university to traveling and now in the working world. So thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, all the best for the future. Thanks, Chloe.
Thank you. You too. And lovely to meet you as well.
Bye.
Bye.